Hi, this is Josh Clark with this week's episode of Be Your Best. Today we're beginning a series on leadership lessons from the life of Moses. Now you may remember reading about Moses in the Old Testament scriptures at a time when his people, the Israelites, were enslaved to the Egyptians. And we read that God looked down on his people and he had compassion on them and he was moved and he raised up a leader named Moses. Now, as we read this story, Moses isn't your typical, what you define as a leader, what I think most of us would pick. But yet, as we see this story unfold, we'll realize he's a very effective leader and just the leader that was needed at that time. And we read about his ups and his downs. It's a true story in the life of anyone who's being prepared for leadership. That it's not all rosy. It's not all uphill, is it? So, in the very beginning, we read about him nearly being killed because the Egyptians were killing the baby boys, Israelite boys, so that the population wouldn't grow too much. And so his mother hid him in a basket, and we read that Pharaoh's daughter was bathing and found the basket with the baby Moses and brought Moses in and raised Moses as her own son. In fact, he was raised with the next leader of Egypt in Pharaoh's own household. And as he grows up, we read about him growing into manhood, and he goes out and he sees his people, and he sees his people being beaten and afflicted and tortured. And Moses, he gets passionate about this, and in a moment of passion, he does something about it. But he acts with haste in doing something about it, and he kills an Egyptian. And he immediately covers the Egyptian with sand and hoping that nobody will find out about it. And of course, word quickly travels. And so he runs to the wilderness for 40 years. Now I want to pause for a moment because here's a couple great lessons. We read about Moses that he was the meekest man who ever lived. Now the first time that I heard the word meek, I didn't picture it as the definition is, a man of great strength and of power, but exercising it under restraint, under control. But yet the first time we read about Moses trying to do something about a problem he saw, we see him acting with haste. And so it's evident that through Moses' 80 years that he learned to be meek. He learned to have patience. He learned to have restraint. We also see, though, that Moses, as a growing leader, he sees a problem. And yet he's willing to make a sacrifice. He's willing to leave all the comforts of Egypt and Pharaoh's house in order to flee into the wilderness. And so my question, the challenge for you and I here is, what problem do you see? And what are you willing to do about it? Are you willing to make a sacrifice? Are you willing to give up the comforts of something in order to make an impact on the world, in order to be a catalyst to make a difference? And then we see him out there for 40 years in the wilderness. He's not called to step up into leadership for 80 years. Now, my word to you is this. I believe God has a plan. He has a purpose for your life. And I believe that no matter how dark it may seem at the moment, how challenging and how unsurmountable the obstacles may appear to be, you have a destiny. And I believe your destiny is to do great things with this one life that you've been given. But yet at times it's going to require restraint. At times it's going to require perseverance, not giving in, not stopping, not quitting, continuing to have faith and believe that God has a plan for you, that this is your year if you'll just hang in there and not grow weary. And so we're going to come back next week for the next episode, and we'll look at Moses being called into leadership. But for now, I want to ask you, if this video has encouraged you, will you take a moment and share it with your friends and family? And together, we can be a catalyst to change the world, one person at a time. God bless and make it a great week.